So today for social studies, we've been learning about ancient Egypt, and we're specifically going to learn about the society and social structure of ancient Egypt. And you have a choice of activities to do after we read this. Well, of course, we want to do our 3-read protocol. I will go ahead and read it out loud for you now, and then you'll want to reread it 2 more times to either answer the comprehension questions or do the second activity, which we'll go over after we read. Okay, so right now I'm going to get my drawing tools so that I can highlight or underline as I'm going through this. So if I find any important information, ideally you'd want to do this after your second or third read, but since I'm not going to do the second or third read with you in this video, I'm going to do it after this first read. All right. Life in ancient Egypt was very different from life today. The structure of their society was also very unique and different from what we are used to in today's society. In ancient Egypt, daily life, religion, and social hierarchy were distinct from other civilizations as well. So is there anything in this first paragraph that stands out to you that you think you'd might want to underline or highlight? Well, it said it was very unique and different. Yep. And it includes their daily life, religion, and social hierarchy. Okay, paragraph number 2. In ancient Egypt, most people were peasants and servants. They were poor and had to pay taxes in the form of crops to the pharaoh, who was the king. Some peasants and servants worked on building projects such as the construction of the pyramids. There were all other classes of people as well. Merchants and craftspeople were slightly wealthier than peasants. Then, even wealthier were the scribes. They were able to read and write. Scribes wrote and copied hieroglyphs and hierarchic scripts. The most important social group besides the royal family were the viziers, priests, and nobles. They worked under the pharaoh who acted as a god. Okay, so most people were peasants and servants. I think that's important. They were poor and they had to pay taxes. They paid taxes with their crops and they had to pay to the pharaoh. Some peasants and servants worked on building projects like the pyramids. There are other classes as well. So we now have the merchants and the craftspeople. And then there's the scribes. And it tells that the scribes copied hieroglyphics and hierarchic scripts. And then the most important social group besides the royal family, so besides the pharaoh, were the viziers, priests, and nobles. They worked under the pharaoh who acted as God, so they may work there in the temple, or they may work specifically under the pharaoh where they would bring him food, tell him jokes, keep him busy, things like that. Okay, the first pharaoh to create a royal dynasty in ancient Egypt was Menes. There were many other important pharaohs after him, including Hatshepsut and Ramses II. Hatshepsut was the first woman pharaoh. Ramses II defeated the Hittites and was one of the most powerful pharaohs. He was also known as Ramses the Great and reigned for over 65 years. Wow, that's really cool. Okay, so Menes had a dynasty, and Hatshepsut and Ramses II. Now, I think this is interesting. Hatshepsut was the first woman pharaoh, and Ramses II was also known as Ramses the Great. So, and that's who I've heard in history books and in movies is Ramses the Great, not necessarily Ramses II. So, and that he reigned for over 65 years. That's a very long time. Okay, the government in ancient Egypt was a bureaucracy. This means, oh, I'm just going to highlight bureaucracy because it is a vocabulary word. This means there were officials in charge of different procedures to get things done. The scribes helped keep records, which were important for implementing large projects, such as the building of the pyramid. Agriculture also required the construction of irrigation systems, which helped control the flooding of the Nile River. There are many aspects about life in, oh, no, it goes to a different paragraph, excuse me. Okay, so bureaucracy, and it gives you the definition, so what it means. So I'm just going to highlight means because you can always go back and read what the actual definition is. So they kept records, and let's see, in construction. Okay, in the next paragraph. There are many aspects about life in ancient Egypt that are fascinating. Here are some interesting facts about life in ancient Egypt. Women and men wore makeup. Popular colors included black and green. Makeup was believed to have healing powers. A lot of times they would use natural herbs as their makeup so that's probably why they thought that it had healing powers because they used flowers, they used pollen, they used soil, they used lots of different things, and then they would mix it together to create the makeup that they use. So the black and the green. Cats were very special, sacred animals, which is why many families had them as pets. They were thought to bring good luck. And ancient Egyptians played a board game called Senet. Instead of throwing a dice, they threw a stick to see how many spaces to move. All right, so now here's where, so I'm not going to highlight anything here because these were just interesting facts. So I could just highlight interesting facts, but that's pretty much it. But what you're going to do now is you have a choice. You can either answer these three questions. What is bureaucracy? You can list the social classes from the wealthiest to the poorest, and what surprised you about life in ancient Egypt. Or, so that's one thing is doing the comprehension questions. The second activity is your society in ancient Egypt pyramid. So you have the different classes here. What you would do is you're going to write down what does each class do. Because in the passage it talked a little bit about what each class does. So what was their job? Okay. And then you have two questions here to answer along with that. So right now you have your choice on which one you would like to do. And whichever one you choose, just take a picture or upload it into the assignment and turn it in. Of course, if you have any questions, reach out to me, but I do not have office hours today because of our drive-through. So please email me or Google chat me and I can help you. All right, thanks guys. I'll see you later.